So the purpose of this reflection is to ultimately go over the methods I went through in order to develop and improve the quality of a specific area of the film studies curriculum. Due to the pandemic, basically this part of the content involving auteur traits relating to the primary film text of Pulp Fiction was fundamentally delivered online during the pandemic. This meant that most of the content, PowerPoints, resources and such that were given to students weren't really made appropriately for the return to the classroom for the next cohort to engage with. So really, as part of my own sort of expertise and understanding for this sort of area from my own previous knowledge and engagement with it, it was decided with my mentor that this was the best way that I could demonstrate all the knowledge that I've sort of grown accustomed to in terms of my understanding of the cohort, and also just to show off the different skills that I've learned during the course of my the course. So really, as you can see from the image, this is the variety of PowerPoints, resources and references I linked all my content to in order to make sure that I delivered the best content that was appropriate for the assessment in a short period of time that was given due to the upcoming assessment period. That again was fundamental that I needed to include as part of my content delivery. So I delivered about 5 to 6 lessons of this, as you can see from the image provided on the reflection. I did give a variety of tasks. This includes basically example essays, grid planning worksheets, essay planning worksheets, knowledge organisers for when they're watching the film and gaining an analysis of that. But there was tasks involved and within the PowerPoints themselves. This included assessment green pen tasks where students would revisit what they've wrote, from the feedback I've given them and then improve upon that. And there was also questions and theories that they would be given questions to, and then we would have open class discussions and trying to improve that. So that was the main skill set that I needed to try and demonstrate all the way through these lessons that I was taking forward. In terms of the professional standard, I feel like I've delivered quite a few in this particular part of my course. So to begin with, I think professional standard 3 in terms of motivating through my enthusiasm and knowledge of the subject. I think in particular with this film auteur sort of part of the course and the film studies aspect is part I was probably the most confident with. It's something that I've come across with both in my previous educational career and that sort of thing. So it was something I was very confident I could deliver on time and hopefully motivate the students to be on the same level, at least in some way. I also, from this, like I've previously mentioned with the tasks, I aim to motivate and develop progression. So even though the actual film itself is quite complex to understand, there's also the on-top elements of theory that the students need to understand. And so this is where really I needed to make it a simplistic and a step-by-step fashion that would ultimately help the progression. And I think that from the first assessments that we delivered and gave feedback on, this really showed that I think I successfully was doing that up until a point where we could go even further with more complex ideas. Looking at PS14, and so this is really delivering diverse methods to the group and the cohort. So despite this particular cohort being quite small, up to about 8 students, and depending on when certain students are in, I also had to consider certain student learning capabilities. So I do have some with learning difficulties that I had to consider in terms of printouts, how I word certain things, and that became a bit of a challenge. But I definitely think again in relation to the assessment that I was able to get back, it really helps me understand. I think I was doing a particularly good job with that. So that's one thing I was particularly happy about. And this sort of links to professional standard 18 as well, and applying appropriate and fair methods of assessment. So really the main assessment method of this course and in film study is essay writing, not so much any creative in this particular part of the content. So really it was giving the facts and the structure that the students need to follow all the way through. So I'm hoping, well, not even hoping, I know for a fact that most of the students did follow these structures, and this is what gave them the higher marks that even some weren't expecting. So that was a nice surprise for both me and for them when they were getting that feedback back. And finally, I think this relates to professional standard 20 in terms of organisation and quality improvement. And as I led with at the start of this reflection, ultimately, a lot of this content wasn't made for in-class development, and it wasn't made to make students aware of what they need to do in terms of writing in the classroom and engage with their peers. So I did try to make sure a lot of the tasks did involve conversation, weren't just solely writing, because that would become a bit lethargic, a bit laborious as well for the students, especially when it comes to this new content that is, like I've said, quite complex even. So I really hope I've something I can take forward, and my mentor can also use in future cohorts as they're through my presentations I've developed and the resources that they can use.